every time you are sharing a message, whatever landing page ads or whatever, imagine that your audience is burning calories while reading that ad or whatever. And if with that like visual, I'm kind of trying to remind me of that the same concept that I want to deliver this idea, I want to evoke this emotion and burn your calories as least amount as possible. And that usually will drive an engagement because people will just stop and they will be, oh yeah, nice, really cool, yes, resonate, whatever, like, retweet, and so on. And if they will see your visual or text or then they will be like, ugh, I need to spend quite a lot of calories in order to read this or consume this, and they will just continue to scrolling, especially if you have low credibility. Of course, if you are Tim Ferriss or Seth Godin, everybody will stop and read your huge ass blog post or whatever.
Janis, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. For people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just Janis. Most people know me for just creating visuals on Twitter, now on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. But that's kind of my main game and how I got a bit popular in the Twitter sphere, and kind of found a lot of other creative friends. But kind of bit about myself and kind of how I started this creative journey, if that makes sense. Then
Yeah.
it was around kind of 4 years ago when I even like just stumbled upon this idea that, ooh, online business, what is this thing? It sounds cool, laptop lifestyle. I want that. That sounds interesting. And kind of then I just started to Google some things and find things out. And it was very, I think back in the days, like 4 or 5 years ago, if you look back, mostly it's like YouTube videos have these headlines, make $100,000 or whatever in 1 month or something. Everything is super salesy and feels super like wrong.
Yeah.
And around that time I kind of discovered the 4 hour work week. And at that
Yeah.
point in my life I didn't read
Nice.
books, and still at that point I was like, okay, sounds super catchy title, super interesting, would love to read this book, but I don't really read books, especially this big. So I kind of put it on the side, and a couple of, I think, weeks later I discovered that there is this thing, audiobooks, and that got really me like curious. Okay, I can listen to the books, that's really awesome. So I picked up the 4 hour work week. I still remember to this day, I was standing in my, not living room, but I was standing in my bedroom. I was 2 hours in the book, and I thought to myself, just, holy shit, Janis, you've been such an idiot. And I just kind of realized how much interesting and amazing information is out there. And that was kind of my pivoting point where I got really hooked into personal development, and kind of, yeah, everything really started there. Of course, it was 3 years of failures and a lot of unsuccessful projects and just doing random things without realizing the importance of audience and so on.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of 1.5 year back, I discovered visuals. Initially, I discovered them actually on James Clear's blog because he sometimes used them in his writing,
Yeah.
and that was the
Yeah.
first time it kind of clicked with me that, oh my god, you can actually deliver a concept, an idea, through a one visual. You don't need to write a blog post or anything like that, and that was really, that intrigued me. And later on, I discovered Jack Butcher, which I believe you have
Yeah.
had on this podcast, which I have listened. He's like really, really good
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he proved to me that there is a business for this. These visuals, they can actually make a business and so on. And that was kind of the second big nudge for me that, okay, I think I want to do this, I really like it, seems that there's a business. Let's do it, let's go for it. And then it was just some iterations and so on, and yeah, here we are.
Nice. Nice. And so let's back up 4 years. Before you read the 4 hour work week. What were you doing? How was life treating you?
The life was really good. The life was really good. And yeah, at that point, I was just, I don't know, 24, 25 years old, young dude. I thought, I got life. I got this stuff. I'm pretty smart. And the 4 hour work week kind of gave me this realization that I don't know shit and I should better start learning. But
And
I
did you have
was,
a job, or did you work like
yeah, yeah.
did you do 40-hour work weeks until you read the book, or?
Yeah, I had a regular 9 to 5 job. I was kind of quite blessed to move into IT by lucky accidents. I don't have any education in IT, but just by some contacts, and they kind of gave a chance to me to prove myself in IT, and I kind of, yeah, went into the corporate world, and it worked out really well. It was a really good job. Everything was really fine, but the purpose was not there.
No,
so
it's good that you
so
mentioned purpose. And how did you find your new purpose? Did the 4 hour work week help you with that, or how did it go?
No, I don't know if I even have a purpose or something like that. But that's just what do you want to do with your life? What do you want from life? What I was clear about. I know that I don't want to go a job. I really didn't like the fact that I have a boss. I really like to do things my own way. So that was kind of clear. I want to make something on my own, and I really love the idea of just having this laptop lifestyle and have the freedom to go everywhere where I want and so on. So that was kind of more about the lifestyle stuff, because I think it's
Mm,
very important. It's not like I want to change the world for good or whatever, but it was just
no.
do meaningful stuff that is interesting to me. I really love learning. What I like kind of discovered after the 4 hour work week, just went into really this personal development rabbit hole, and I just love to share some concepts. I really like to learn. I love to unpack these ideas in these visuals, and seems that people like them, and just kind of be helpful and kind of create some books along the way, and we'll see where this goes. What I really understand in the past year is that you can have a lot of plans, but things really change, and yeah, it's hard to plan anything. But I have some sort of north star where I want to go, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
There is no
yeah,
mission
nice.
statement, that's for sure.
Oh well, who knows? I've actually been, doing a course for the past couple of weeks to get everything out of myself. And one of the exercises is get a purpose, and that's not something there's a
Eh,
system for to do. It's like it's experimenting with, if I look at your account, for example, I could say your purpose is inspiring a million people through simple visuals to make something better out of their life. And that could be your purpose.
yeah.
And so my purpose could be I'm also still in the experimenting phase. So I think, yeah, I could I want to help 1 million people earn money through their social media presence. That would be a purpose that would be pretty fitting for me. Hypefury helps with that, and I'm really interested in the entire like digital marketing thing. So that would be a good purpose for me. And yeah, I've just been reading interesting stuff about that. It just you just get so much more passionate about what you're doing if you have a purpose that aligns with your interests and with what the market wants. So
Do you
it's
do you think do you think there is a value of having this like strict number based purpose? Help million people to do X.
yeah, maybe not a million, but it's like it's more of an aspirational thing. You could
Mm-hmm.
also say I want to help one person every day. So I don't think the number is a big thing, as part of the purpose. It's more everything surrounding that, I think.
Yeah. Well, I know if I kind of look back, I have thought a bit about these things, and I kind of one thing that I try to remind myself sometimes is that one of the thing I want to create cool coffee table books, which looks really good on like coffee tables, and maybe you have a friend that comes over and they kind of see this book on your table, and maybe they are not completely interested in personal development or anything like that, and I would like to make these books in a way that it kind of inspires completely blank people that I was 5 years ago, without the Tim Ferriss, without that aspiration, that kind of nudge maybe the people in a bit, like, wow, this is curious, interesting, okay, let's learn more about this. So that's kind of one thing I have thought about, which is a bit more like actionable. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool to think about this, I think. It's kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
you can just by thinking about this, you can hype yourself up and get get a bit more motivated.
definitely, definitely. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. So you read the 4 hour work week. You still had the 40-hour job. You thought, I need to change things. Run us through what happened.
Um, well, I left my job a bit less than a year ago, which was last year in April. I would say, one thing that kind of made this possible was probably my wife, because she's good with money. She knows how to save things. I'm really good at spending and just not looking at my bank account and just, oh shit, we don't have any money anymore. So she was kind of good at saving money, and with all the COVID hitting, less travel, less parties, less everything, and then kind of we managed to save up
It's easier for you
money.
to keep all the money in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. That was one thing. So yeah, and if I left my job in April, I started to create kind of the visuals that you know me now for previous year, November, December. That was when I kind of went on Twitter and I said, okay, I will be serious about this. I will do this like daily. Let's go. And rather quickly, I would say in around, 3 months, some momentum started to take place. I understood, okay, people actually like these things. Some people actually reached out to me to do some freelance. So there was some sense of validation. And yeah, on April, it was kind of, I even didn't thought about leaving my job. But as this momentum started to take place, my wife was like, really cool, awesome, lovely. And she kind of mentioned that, maybe you should quit the job because the job was a bit frustrating, and I had some stressful periods in it. And she thought like, we have money saved up, and then we kind of did some calculations. We understood like with all the, support from the government and so on, and we had like our second child. So there's another layer of support from the government. We kind of did the math, and we did the calculation that we have a runway for 1.5 years. Even if I have zero freelance gigs, zero anything, we're good. We can live our lives as we live, and then that should be good. And yeah, we kind of did the math, and I pulled the plug, and I said, okay, that's it. And it's been fantastic. I can't really
Nice.
complain about the decision.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
there are
but
two ways of going about that. Usually, either people start their side business next to their job, or they stop cold turkey. Some people do it without a lot of savings, maybe because their costs are low. They still live at home with their parents. You I had your wife. We did the financial planning, I guess, but there wasn't really. You didn't have like a couple of months to adjust to. Okay, I'm gonna quit. It was more like a spur of the moment thing. The money was there, the job was frustrating, you saw an opportunity, and then you both, I guess, decided to say, I'm going to quit my job.
Ye- yeah, it was kind of, I guess it wasn't even on my radar because I was always, creating something along my 9 to 5. It was just, I was so used to it. But when actually some validation took place and it was like, okay, this is going somewhere. Yeah, it was just a nudge from my wife. She said, maybe let's go for it and let's see how it goes. So yeah, but it was definitely, it didn't feel scary or anything. I have two kids and so on. We have a house and a loan and so on. So plenty of
Yeah,
obligations not to go cold
yeah,
turkey. Some people do and it works, some people don't and it works. So I don't know. But yeah, we went quite, I would say it was a quite safe bet to leave.
nice, nice. And so you said you did some validation on, like, I guess, which is now your main business. What did you do, and how did you see the first traction?
Well, I think one of the moments which really changed the things was actually because before that I didn't have any audience. I really didn't have any creative friends as well. Most of my friends here in Latvia just do other stuff and they are not really into this. And I think one thing I did later, like almost like before starting doing visuals, was joining Jack Butcher's Visualize Value community. I just joined the
Yeah,
community because I thought, maybe some like-minded people will help, and that was tremendous help. It was just not in terms that the value I got in that community, but just the sense that, oh my God, there are people like me. They are struggling, they are doing this, they are, you got the sense that Jack Butcher is the similar dude as me. We have different experiences and so on. He's no like god or whatever. And you just get this
yeah, yeah.
reality check that we are all in this kind of together. We are all similar. We all have our like strengths and weaknesses, and that was a huge shift. And just maybe some initial engagement as well, because you start to chat with some people in the community and they kind of bit support your work. And on Twitter, if somebody even likes your post, it kind of gives some extra boost engagement and so on. So joining a
Yeah.
community was really huge for me, I believe. So, and of course the other thing was landing and doing the content that people really like, because I kind of switched. Previously I was really trying to do somewhat similar visuals that Jack Butcher does, which is very like kind of not in his style, but very similar. And kind of late in the
Realistic.
year, I discovered this account on Instagram, which is quite huge, called Liz and Molly. And those are basically two ladies which talk about feelings at work. And they kind of very triggered in my mind this idea, instead of talking about advice and value, which is often like what we usually do on Twitter. 10 tips to do this, 10 tips, here's how to
Yeah,
change that.
yeah,
I switched my mind to I started to think about I could talk about creative struggles, because that's something I kind of experienced, for the past 4 years, doing a lot of weird stuff. And yeah, I switched my theme to talk about emotions, struggles, which gets a lot of relatable moments and so on. And to this day, if you will go on my Twitter and you'll check like my best performing tweets, and the stuff that mostly resonated with people was when I talked about not specifically advice, but when people look at the tweet and they're like, "Holy shit, Janis gets me." It's I've been
yeah,
there. He
yeah.
really understands me, and that was a
Yeah.
huge shift as well.
Preparing for the meeting, doing the actual meeting. That
Yeah,
was one of
yeah.
yours, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and a
Uh,
lot of similar. That really resonates with people. People, I guess, I don't know. That's something that I got from reading kids' books as well. Because if you kind of read kids' books, and one of the things, usually pretty much all of them talks about, is acknowledge kids' feelings. If you will acknowledge your kids' feelings, only then they will start to listen. Instead of just yelling them what to do, tell them that, oh, you feel frustrated. Oh, you feel like this. Oh, you wanted this to happen like that, and then they will kind of tune in and start to listen to you. And that was this moment as well, where I started to treat everyone like kids. Because who don't
yeah,
like, when you go home and your wife says to you, just, oh, looks like you had a hard day, and you're like, yes honey, I had a hard day. Everybody loves that. Everybody likes to hear that. So
yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
true. So yeah, I have two kids myself, so they're 7 and 4, and I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, you can go against them. They're saying, yeah, but I wanted to play with this kid and he couldn't. And you could say, yeah, but come home and we'll play together. But he's still fixated on, I want to play with my friend. So you first have to acknowledge that. Yeah, I feel you. I understand you want to play with him. Sorry. And then you can slowly nudge him back back home. Yeah, it's funny.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very relatable. So yeah, I think there's a huge demand on Twitter for the 10 tips about, or the best curated stuff, threads on that. But there's also a huge demand, and you see that where things are going viral, like feelings based. Like, oh yeah, I also have that. Oh man, I this is so recognizable, and that really resonates on Twitter as well.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. And so you went into visualize value, the community. I taste that you didn't really make a lot of connections, maybe just some shallow ones, but the most important thing you got out of there was you saw other people creating things, struggling with things. How did that help you in your path to like becoming a full-time successful entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know. The one thing that comes to mind is mostly just previously I was lone wolf, just doing my thing, trying to figure this out pretty much on my own. I was still listening to podcasts, listening to books and so on, and just grabbing advice here and there. But there is tremendous power just to talk with someone who is doing similar stuff than you. And I think one thing that I got away from, and which I really started to value, was that before I was looking at all the Tim Ferrisses, Seth Godins, and all the like big dudes in this industry, and in the visual after, like, during the visualized value, I started to look, people few steps ahead of me, and that was really really helpful, because the advice is a lot more actionable. It's a lot more like, just, it feels more real. How, I don't know, if you go and ask Tim Ferriss, how to do Twitter right now, and he would just probably give you a complete bullshit answer, because he don't really know that. He built his
Yeah,
audience back in the days when blogs were kind of a thing, and
yeah.
so on.
He's
So
also
yeah.
still sharing his blog posts.
Yeah, exactly. And just with his 1.6 million audience getting like 2 likes on those posts, and when he just
Yeah, yeah.
does I don't know, GM goes viral. So yeah.
Exactly. Good morning. Did everybody read a page in my 4-hour work week today or something, and then I will go viral. But instead, he's been sharing his blog post since forever.
Yep. And of course, it's completely fine.
Funny.
He don't give an ash about it, and he shouldn't. But I'm just, yeah, it's very
Yeah,
helpful to look towards people who are just few steps ahead of you. and kind of blend, of course, that with advice from the gods and so on. But kind of, I think it's good to find these, let's say, comrades, or how do you tell it in English? Yeah.
Comrades. That's a good word, I think, for it. And so, so you did you like, I guess, create your own small community with people you met on Visualize Value, or did you meet people along the way and then maybe, I don't know, started a Slack group and share things, or how did that go?
Not really. I think just with couple, I don't think that one specific person necessarily came out of Visualize Value, because mostly it was, I just discovered new people, and then new people, on Twitter leads to another new people, person or whatever, and then they, DM you, and then you started to chat, and then you vibe with someone, and with somebody else you don't vibe with. And I think most of the connections got developed from Twitter. I think Visualize Value really helped me just initially to get the initial boost of kind of engagement and just discovery, and then it was very slow growth, pretty much
Yeah.
every month. But new people kind of discovered me, and some DM'd me and so on. It was, yeah, everything happened on Twitter, I would say.
Yeah, nice. And so you shared your work in the community. You got your first likes. Um, like, how did you start your content journey? I guess on Twitter and the visuals you shared, and how did it transition to what you're doing now?
Not much have changed, to be honest. One thing I did, which I kind of committed with a friend, we had this deal that every day I need to do some 50 push-ups and 50 presses, and post one visual, and he needs to do his own little exercise or whatever, and we kind of reported every day that, if it's done or not. If it was not done, we need to send €1 to each other. So that was a nice
Nice.
accountability partner. So I really suggest, if you have a friend who is kind of on this similar type of journey or whatever, who just wants to get things done, that was very helpful habit to have. And yeah, I pretty much posted daily, just created visuals, and that's pretty much the same thing I'm doing it today, showing up every
Yeah.
day with a visual. I try to do threads here and there, but those come a bit harder for me. But I'm trying to kind of expand my, let's say, yeah, content creation format. Not only visuals, that's still my main thing, but I try some other things. But yeah, pretty much it was a visual a day. Some new people discover me. There was no huge viral moments or like 5K subscribers at any particular moment. I think my most viral visual, which went like, got like two, I don't know, 20,000 likes or something, 2 million impressions. I think it generated around 2,000 followers, I think. But that was kind of my hugest spike ever. Everything else was very slow, common, normal growth. It was good growth, but it was, yeah, just posting daily and showing up every day, and of course engaging with others. That's huge on Twitter, I think. If you
Yeah.
will just post original content, especially early on, you need kind of to engage with others. That I think really helps. So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of my 2 cents on this. I don't know if you have any follow-up questions here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, you mentioned that you discovered that Instagram account. I already forgot the names, but two women, I think, talking about struggles at work. How did that help you in create different types of content?
Well, that was just the initial idea, because it was always, the inspiration was mostly, Jack Butcher and a bit James Clear, and it was very this format that everybody knew, but not not that much people actually talked about emotions, and used like speech bubbles or some weird things in their visuals, which was very uncommon. Mostly, it's some sort of axes or very solid metaphors with some clear statements. But yeah, that Liz and Molly, they were really good at kind of evoking emotions, and creating these feelings that, oh, yes, this is how I feel, and so on. And that was kind of when I started to just create that type of content, and it really worked. It was mostly just to think about, when I create that visual, you think about what type of emotion I would like to evoke from my reader. So for example, for this particular visual, I would like to give that feeling, when, as you said previously, with the calendar, that we kind of maybe do some things all day, and maybe we need to do some important thing, and we just cram that important thing just in the last hour of the day. But actually, we yeah, all the previous hours we just kind of procrastinate and do just random things, which probably a lot of people can kind of resonate. And then you just kind of illustrate that thing with the as fast as you can, and then just as understandable as you can, so it just is super snappy, because I think that's another very important thing if you would like to do some sort of visuals and so on. And especially in the beginning, I think it's very important to, I really like this concept from, I don't know if you have read or heard this guy Donald Miller, who have wrote the book Story Brand.
Yep.
It's pretty good book.
I have it here somewhere. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
And he have this concept of every time you are sharing a message, whatever landing page ads or whatever, imagine that your audience is burning calories while reading that ad or whatever. And if with that like visual, I'm kind of trying to remind me of that, the same concept, that I want to deliver this idea, I want to evoke this emotion and burn your calories as least amount as possible. And that usually will drive an engagement, because people will just stop and they will be, oh yeah, nice, really cool, yes, resonate, whatever, like, retweet, and so on. And if they will see your visual or text, or then they will be like, ugh, I need to spend quite a lot of calories in order to read this or consume this, and they will just continue to scrolling. Especially if you have
Yep.
low credibility. Of course, if you are Tim Ferriss or Seth Godin, everybody will stop and read your huge ass blog post or whatever.
Yep.
But for,
Yep.
yeah, that's kind of the idea which I try to follow a lot
Yep.
as well.
That's a really really interesting idea. I also like to follow the idea of the brand bank. So whenever you like show people an ad, you actually subtract something for your brand bank. Whenever you add value to the timeline, or when you, I don't know, create a Notion file or something that's helpful, yeah, you add something to the brand bank. And I'm always trying to add as much value to, I guess Hypefury's brand bank or my personal brand bank. And I try to take at least the least amount of possible things out of the brand bank. Yeah? So we have we send a lot of emails, but we barely send any sales emails. So I think I probably do it a bit too much, trying to put assets in the brand bank instead of I can probably sell a little bit more. But I also really like that concept of thinking as yourself is like a bank where you can add and subtract
Yeah,
from
it's
and
very,
to your audience.
very interesting idea. I love this. Thank you for sharing this concept. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I never filtered things through this type of filter, but that's something similar I usually try to do as well. Kind of how I think about this is, I don't know. One example that I often use is Julian Shapiro, which you probably know on Twitter, and he
Yep.
has like, he almost tweets like, I don't know, once a week or something. But
When he
whenever he
does,
tweets, I always lean in and I always read, because I know it's good stuff. And that's something I try to remind myself as well. Don't necessarily tweet, 10 times a day, because I don't like that as well. If somebody tweets like 10 times a day, I'm not reading. It's too much. It's too much. Sorry, I'm not interested. But if you come with a
yep,
good quality stuff, and I want to create this feeling, when you see my face on Twitter, I want you to lean in, and I want you to trust me, with your attention, that okay, Janis will probably create something good. That's kind of I try to follow as well. But I really love your
yep,
brand bank concept. It's very, very clever, nice.
yeah, 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 yeah. You have, I guess there are a lot of different ways you can like share your content on Twitter. Right? There are a lot of people who I guess tweet at least 10 times a day. They have a lot of witty remarks. They look at trends. They provoke things with their tweets. You have people who are great with words, with how to phrase things. That resonates. You have people who like almost only share threads. You have people who share memes and other visuals. So there's like dozens of ways people can act on Twitter. And I guess your main way is tell stories with visuals. You're trying a little bit to mingle with threads. How do you see that going in the future? You'll probably stick to the visuals, but yeah, is that something you'd like to develop further? How do you look at that?
Yeah, well, one thing I usually try to follow, I really like that I'm having fun while I'm doing it. There are some certain for example, recently I started a podcast as well with Alex. I think he have been on your podcast as well because we just talked and he said that he have been. So
Yep.
so yeah, Alex from Spain. We started a podcast together, which was which was one of my aspirations as well. I always wanted kind of to start a podcast, but I know most of the podcasts are usually these type of interview type of podcasts, and I was not sure I'm ready to commit to that big of a commitment. But kind of one concept which I really like is My First Million, where there are just two hosts
Yep.
most of the
Yep.
time just jamming and just talking about random stuff and just basically having a conversation without any expectations or massive preparation and so on. And kind of Alex just reached out to me, hey, Janis, want to do a podcast together? And I was like, yes, I always wanted to start the podcast and this is the perfect format. Let's do it. And kind of
Cool.
one of the reasons why I'm doing that podcast is, well, one thing is just interesting to talk with another creator, and just have fun. But another thing was just to improve my public speaking skills. That was kind of one of the main reasons why I was actually doing it. I thought, okay, if I will do it for a year or two, probably I will be a lot better with like communicating my ideas and just talking English in general. So that's one thing which is happening now and will happen in future as well. So far, we are having a lot of fun with it, and it doesn't feel that overwhelming. Yeah, another thing is writing. Writing comes hard for me, but I think I want to develop that skill as well. So we'll see how that will evolve and so on. But yeah, I would definitely would like to bring more writing as well onto Twitter. But most of the things will be visuals because I'm not thinking that much how am I presenting ideas, but one of my core concepts, which I really love, is just to be extremely fast with conveying interesting ideas. I'm just trying to be the bridge for a lot of people and hook them into all this game because I'm giving these cookies that you can eat extremely quickly and get interesting ideas in seconds. And I think visuals are one of the ways how to do it most efficiently. But
Yep.
but
Yep.
yeah, who knows, but writing will come into place a bit more as well probably, and then podcast is very fun. We'll see.
Nice. Nice. And then yeah, you've been on Twitter now for about I don't know, like 18 months or so, 20,000 followers. Um, a while back, you started. I think you thought, hey, what Jack Butcher can do, I can do as well. So you started your own course to help people with, I guess doing what you're doing. How did that come to fruition? How did you launch it? How did that go?
It was unexpectedly good, to be honest. um and yeah, I guess one of the advice that I often heard before I even started to create, when I was just consuming podcasts and just learning, one of the things I often hear is that, make a product or make a course or make something when your audience is asking you to do it. That is kind of one of the advice which is quite commonly spread among some creators. And nobody, of course, wants to listen to advice. We all want to make products and we want to make money. And I don't believe there are right or wrong ways to do it. But I was thinking to do a course, but somewhat maybe after 3 months from now, so maybe mid this year. That's when I kind of wanted to do a course. But I had quite a few, I think around 10 people who were actually asking me, I really want to learn from you, can you do a course, can you just coach me, teach me, or something like that. And I really didn't want to do coaching, but I was kind of, in the November I was thinking, okay, let's try to do maybe a more like an MVP version of this. But in order to give more value to students, let's make it with the community. And I'm actually like sharing a lot of feedback to people and so on, so they get this tailored advice for their work. And yeah, tons of people have, well, okay, I don't know tons, but there's like more than 200 people now in the course, which is quite a big number. I'm really happy with it. And yeah,
Nice,
it's going
very
really
nice,
well. The feedback is really good, and I kind of plan to do some iterations on it. But it's been a blast. It's been very humbling experience with all of that course. And yeah, the best part of it is that a lot of people actually get very good results and super early on, and a lot of them have kind of got their money back with doing freelance and so on. So that's very wonderful to
nice,
see. And yeah, so it's been
nice.
really great.
Let's dig in a little in how you created your MVP, like the first version of your course. How did you do that?
Well, again, this was again looking at the things. how I like to see. I was not looking what other people are really doing. I was thinking how I would like to consume a course. What are maybe some courses that I really liked and what I like about them. So one of the things I was like, I will not ramble. I will not talk some unnecessary BS. I will try to be really on point and very high signal, and I will just try to bring out the most important things. So that was one of the things. So it's kind of in general the course was, I don't know how I ended up, but it's basically 4 videos in total, around 1.5 hours. And then it's just more, some behind the scenes where I just show how I create my visuals and just talk over when I'm doing it, and we have some office hours and other things. But initially it was just, I think it was when I started to think about creating a course, I was having this notes on my notes app, and I just kind of noted some ideas. Okay, I think this is very important for people to know. Okay, then this, and kind of had these ideas, and then I just kind of outlined them in 4 modules and created slides, recorded slides, talked over them, and that was pretty much it. Created a Discord community, super MVP. But yeah, people seem to like it and get some results. So I don't know if you have any follow-up questions, I can elaborate, but that's kind of, it was very raw
Yeah,
and
yeah.
very
But,
basic.
how did you decide the four parts in your course? Did you was that also based on people asking you questions? How did you come to that?
Well, one thing was definitely to kind of creating that from questions that kind of poured in. But now the reason I kind of want to do an update, because I've now worked with quite a few students and I've learned a lot, what is the kind of initial struggles and so on. So I kind of want to adjust some of the things. But the format I had was basically the initial part of the course was fundamentals, where we simply covered kind of the fundamentals that we touched here a bit, talking about emotions, not only other stuff, all about this calorie thing, that you need to be very fast and efficient and kind of remove the clutter, and some other things which I kind of need to look at it. But and then the second one was kind of how to generate ideas, because that's a massive part of all of this. One of the most important things, I never sit at my laptop and okay, now I will come up with an idea. I always have a file with tons of ideas from weird places, kind of, yeah, where I just have gathered them. So yeah, that was the second module, about mostly how I generate ideas, because it's very important. And then the third module was how to work with ideas. That's actually when you kind of take the fundamentals, take the ideas, and start to work with those ideas. Okay, what type of metaphors I could use, what type of format I could use, and so on. So that's kind of the third part of it. And the fourth was basically basics of design and how to actually make it in a visual. So that's kind of the 4 fundamental concepts I have in that course, and how I got about. I didn't thought anything else was really necessary, so that was pretty much it. And after that, it was just some behind the scenes and some templates and so on. But that's all minor stuff. But yeah, I think
Nice.
what people mostly enjoy is the feedback in the community, that they create this visual and they get concrete answers from me, that okay, I think this is good, I think maybe this could be a bit bolder so it stands out, and so on. So I think that's the best value. But yeah, okay.
Cool. Cool. And so already a couple of hundred people are on your course. You've had great results. What are your next steps? Or if somebody else would think, well, I'm going to launch a course, might not be with visuals, but might be with something else. What would be a logical next step for people to do?
Well, it really depends on your intentions, where you want to go. So kind of one of the thing which I have promised to myself and kind of in the course, that I don't want to close the community, but by end of this year, I don't want to have the obligation to actually give feedback to people and so on, because that's taking quite a lot of time. And I plan to iterate it more to a self-paced course, kind of leave the community there, but without that feedback option, because I just want to have more time on my hands, and I just want to learn and create books or something else, I don't know. So yeah, kind of I want to iterate it more to a self-paced type of course, and then maybe if there is the demand, I could do maybe once a year or twice a year cohort courses, which could be probably higher price point, but where actually people get like hands-on experience, maybe some similar as Ship 30 for 30 have like 30-day type of course. Maybe it could be something like that for everyone who really wants to wants to do it that type of way. So those are the two ideas I have, but I don't have very concrete plans now. Just the plan is just to update the existing stuff, and yeah, but yeah, that's two directions I think about it, at least for this course.
Nice. Nice. And so for people who are thinking of creating visuals, also, maybe similar to yours or have a background in visualization, you said, well, I've been tinkering for years and now finally I've got something. With your course, I guess you can probably crank those three years in maybe a month or a couple of months, and then the quality of your visuals will already be pretty big, pretty good. For people who are also like visualizers, animators, stuff like that, what would be a good way for them to start on Twitter, grow an audience, and then maybe in the end also create a course or something like that?
Well, I don't know if we talk about like creating a course and so on, the best thing you could do, which I understood, is just have an audience, have people, if you can show that people like your stuff, people engage with your stuff, people love it. Like freelance gigs will come out of that. Like a lot of good things happen if you can grow your audience and if you can generate engagement. That is just, it's money. People will come to you and people will want to learn from you. If somebody comes out and creates like epic stuff and people can't really figure out how they do it and they can generate results, people want results, and people think if you will buy that course or whatever, I will have those results as well. And sometimes it's not true, sometimes it's true. Of course, it's all like about the expectations, to have the patience and so on to actually follow through. But yeah, the main thing is just generate audience, generate engagement, and that will lead into good places. But that's the path I went. There are probably a lot different ways how to go about this as well. And you mentioned a bit about like how people should actually start. I could probably give advice not only to visualizers, because I'm not actually, and I don't consider myself as a designer. And that is, I think, one of the actually reasons why probably quite a few people have been interested in my course, because one of the stories I kind of sell is that I'm not a designer. You don't need to be a designer to do this. And I really believe that. And a lot of people have got really good results who have not been designers, and they are now doing freelance gigs as a designers. But
Wow.
because it's what I'm doing, it's not really about design. It's about, one of the things I kind of teach and explain, and how I like to look at this, I simply look at visuals as another language how to communicate ideas. It's that simple. It's just a different way. Probably 80% of the people who will look at your work, they will not care that much about the design and how fancy it looks. If you can communicate that idea in that novel, interesting, new way, they will appreciate it. And it doesn't matter what type of font you are using and so on. Of course, it matters, but it matters this much, instead of how most people think that it's like everything. So yeah, really get rid of the idea and have this belief that you really can do it. Just find one of my visuals. A lot of my visuals are extremely simple bar charts or super simple processes, because no, everybody can go in a simple PowerPoint presentation and actually do it. And yeah, so have this belief that you can actually do it. And then some of the tips we already talked about here. Don't think about only, how to illustrate quotes and create this advice type of visuals. Talk about them, think about emotions, think about relatability. uh that's yeah, that's another advice. And the second thing is, of course, be fast, be quick, especially if your credibility is low. Remember, if your credibility is low, you either need to have a very good hook how to loop people in to read your stuff, or just you need to deliver the value right then and there and be super efficient, super fast about it. So yeah, and I don't know, if you are interested into this type of visual stuff, you can actually go into my Twitter profile, and in my bio link you can find one thread, which is how I go about visual content creation, and it has quite a few tips there which you can just read. And yeah, recently I recorded a podcast episode as well talking about this. So you don't need to buy anyone's course to do it. You can really do it. Just have the belief and start to experiment and shake off this idea that you need to be a designer to do it. That's maybe an excuse that you could use, 10 years ago. But just think about the tools that we currently have. It's just crazy. And tutorials and everything is so accessible. So you really don't need to be a designer to explain ideas visually. um,
Nice.
that's kind of my 2 cents on this.
Nice. Janis, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
um, yeah, just my Twitter, at Ozolins Janis, but that's hard to pronounce, so you can go to my bio link, which is bio.link/OZO. And yeah, all my stuff is there. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. This
Thanks, man.
was good fun.
Great.